Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Sidequest. Today, we are asking a slightly uncomfortable question. Is AI quietly taking over the repetitive roles, especially in and around tech industry? Because that's where both of us work in B2B SaaS. Because it feels like a complete reshuffle of what we are used to in job market. This is Sidequest, where we talk about work, business, culture, and chaotic, uncomfortable stuff in between. Let's dive in. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, dear wife. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Long time no see.
Should we crack on?
Yeah, what do you think about our topic today?
Yeah, it could be quite meaty, but again, it's one of those ones that's quite topical and it's always worth revisiting, so it's good to look into and talk about.
So, before we begin, actually, let's decide if we agree that is AI actually replacing the roles or not, and after that, we can discuss how.
Yes, it kind of is. It started out going for processes, and now, just through natural evolution, it's kind of is taking on people's job descriptions, all in the aid of saving money, effectively, and increasing those profit margins.
Yeah, as per the data, top 10 AI startups are making 3.48 million revenue per employee, whereas that of the regular SaaS is just over $310K dollars, which means that a best AI startup, its output is 5.7 times better than a traditional SaaS company. So if these are the kind of numbers companies are seeing, they definitely would want to replace humans with AI.
Yeah, I mean, it just generally makes things more efficient, doesn't it? And for, new businesses and entrepreneurs, it kind of removes that barrier of having you need X amount of investment to start with, because you've already got a ready-made expert there who can access that information. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but it does really, really help someone who's like a sort of working by themselves and they've got a skill gap.
So I think we can clearly say that AI is not coming for companies. It's rather coming after job description. And if your role is particularly built around activities or repetitive work instead of outcome, like how you contribute to the business, you should feel exposed at this point, because it's high time for you to realize that, hey, I need to pivot in my job. I read somewhere a very interesting point that every time a certain transition happens, it does hit you and hit a certain generation, but it brings back more prosperity in return. I don't know if this is going to be replicated this time because of so many things happening in parallel. It was quite optimistic.
I guess we'll find out one way or the other.
But on that point, do you know that almost 55% of companies or employers actually regret AI-led layoffs? It is by Forrester 2026 report.
Yeah, I saw that quite in the news actually. Wasn't it Salesforce who sort of backtracked, tried to rehire a lot of the people that they let go previously because it just wasn't working. I think Klarna also did something, didn't they?
Yeah, they did actually. They also claim that, AI does a work of 853 agents, saving them 60 million, but the quality dropped and they had to rehire. In fact, it's more than half of employers who have cut their staff say that they regret it. And many are mainly rehiring offshore. I don't think that is solving the problem.
No, it isn't. It's a short-term gap, isn't it? It's a cheap short-term solution, so that when AI does become a bit more reliable, they can just then lay off them and take AI back on. But I also bet they're not hiring the same amount of people back either.
Yeah, but I want to be a devil's advocate and say, being a business person itself, we understand the need to actually cut down the cost and your overheads. But every time I have seen company hire someone offshore to do a job in a different market, I have seen a massive gap in understanding the market that they are hired to work for, because someone, let's say in Asia, is not going to understand the dynamics and the market in Europe or in. There are so many things and nuances that you need to understand about a certain culture, and I think that's what many people don't understand when they're hiring offshore.
Yeah, no, obviously we see it in everyday life. There is different cultural views on work and how it should be done. Not saying one's right or wrong, one's better than the other. But yeah, like you said, there is a complete and utter, there can be some very wild differences, even within the same country in some aspects. So you just have to be aware of it, and navigating it's the issue. rather than anything else.
Just to dig a little bit deeper into offshore employees and AI, I think they both can handle execution, but the quality is the issue, right? AI is not reliable enough yet, but there is still an execution part that is being taken care of. Previously, it was done by offshore jobs. Right now, AI is doing. So, if execution is taken away from us human, what is left then?
Well, I mean, on the face of it, not a positive outcome at the moment. But what one thing AI can't do right now is make a good judgment call. And also the fact that AI at this stage is not going to own a problem or a solution or whatever it may be. It still needs to be prompted. It is likely to reduce team sizes, because end of the day, there are a lot of automations that can be done. But also, like, not everyone can suddenly just go from working in a customer-facing role, for example, to then being the strategic head of a department. You know, it doesn't happen like that, unfortunately.
Like you said, not everyone can actually move on from executing to start thinking strategic next day. So, and those executionary roles are the ones that is being overtaken by AI. So what happens to those people?
Well, they've kind of got two choices, really. They can keep sidestepping between jobs and trying to outrun technology, or they can pivot. You know, they could either add some more strength to their bow, or, for example, they could see what tools are coming and be the expert on managing that tool that now does their job. So take advantage of the situation is what I would probably say. What do you think about it?
I don't know. I feel that if AI can do actually 50% of the repetitive work that you're doing, that actually changes the hiring maths, because rather than having someone full time, I'll rather go part time with that person, right? Or see someone who can actually do a contractual work rather than having them as a full-time employee. I think like teams are already, especially B2B SaaS teams, which is business to business SaaS team for people who are not from the industry. SaaS actually stands for software as a service. So Monday.com, even Salesforce, they are all SaaS B2B company. So I think these B2B SaaS companies, they are going to permanently shrink, or they are going to rethink about their hiring strategy altogether. AI needs to be prompted and you still need a human being to actually do it. Yes, I have seen it firsthand. You end up doing that work just because you cut that role out and gotten an AI. Because you need to prompt it, you need to review it, you need to work as a supervisor for the AI that came to replace a job that previously didn't report to you. There is going to be a lot of pressure on productivity as the cost comes down, is what I feel.
Definitely. Because obviously the other thing is, if the AI goes wrong and you don't have those people in place, like a content writer, if the AI stops working for whatever reason, are you even equipped to do the content writing? Let alone have time for it. Are you actually in a position that you can write the good content? Or do you just stick a post up that goes, sorry, the AI is not working, we're not in today? I mean, that doesn't work, does it?
I think it is creating a small group of an elite class who actually own decision making. Effort is going to be more and more cheaper because, AI can do the same job in 10 minutes. It is all about understanding the human connection, about the context. Then you'd be also asked, what have you actually brought to the table? Because a role that previously didn't have revenue outcome attached to it would start having target on its head as well. Because if your content is not converting, you no longer can say that, hey, it took me 10 hours and I'm producing beautiful content, because everyone, I think, is going to be very mechanical and surgical about the outcomes.
Yeah, that is true. But then there is the flip side. If you're going to use AI, nobody is quite happy when they see AI content, are they? At the moment, it's not smart enough to completely confuse a human, which makes us feel uneasy, which makes us lead to distrusting. So at the moment, you are still going to need a human being, but obviously at some point, it will get better.
One thing that everyone needs to keep in mind is, at the end of the day, if your answer you generated from AI is exactly same as your competitors, I think you need to rethink about getting that AI. That's when you need human, how you're going to differentiate. Because no matter how good your prompt is, there is going to be similarity. AI is not going to see that, hey, my competitor had a different answer. I need to make it distinctly different. It is going to take those as a reference point and give you a very similar kind of an answer if you actually put them as a reference point.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if, because obviously a lot of this might get outsourced, as it does. There'll be one chap in the middle of somewhere who's got 19 different company names and he's doing the same thing for all of them.
That actually happened in a company
Why are we here?
called Bill.com or something like that, where they say that AI makes their whole website and apps, and it turned out that they had this army of workers behind, like designers and engineers behind, who were developing it.
Did the websites work?
I don't know, like they only figured it out when they were digging deeper during the investment round. It's quite
Inspiring and
funny.
worrying at the same time, isn't it?
I mean, it shows the value that at the end of the day, you'd need humans, but it is sad that, human input has become so cheaper.
If companies can make so many savings on efficiencies just in processes, what are the strategic team doing already? You can't just point the finger at AI can do X, Y, and Z. There's clearly a problem there anyway.
I also feel if AI is going to produce everything, AI is going to monitor everything, the content that you would be making, thinking that your audience is going to look, they are going to have AI review it as well. So at the end of the day, the whole AI that replaced your employee are also going to replace a part of your audience, and you reaching to your rightful customer is going to be even harder and harder. It has already become, isn't it? Because when you want to chat with someone in customer service, you have to jump through hoops to actually finally talk to a human being.
I think what will really happen is you won't speak to a person at all anymore. You'll just get through to a more advanced AI agent that the business pays more for at a senior level.
Human interactions are going to come with the premium price tag. That's what it's going to happen with AI. It already is, isn't it? Like, for example, in companies, they charge you extra for exclusive customer support where you have a dedicated team for you, which previously used to be your regular customer support and not chatbots. So I think like it has already started.
For our next segment, do you think B2B teams will permanently shrink, or do you think it would just be temporary?
I personally feel that tech industry has always been overly bloated, especially in last decade or so. We overhired. I don't think it is ever going to go back because Microsoft itself, they cut 50K people, and Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, says that now we are moving from software factory, which is offshore, like you said in our previous question, to intelligence engine, which is AI. Same thing with Meta as well. So they moved, I think, around 1,500 people from Reality Labs. That was all about VR. I definitely think that this shrink is more or less permanent. We would not see a very bloated teams, like 1,000 people in one single office anymore.
No, but do you actually think that will lead to a better output?
No, because I feel the generation that is most AI ready, which is Gen Z, and that's the paradox, they are shut down from the job market mainly because of how entry-level job is, and they're not getting experiences. Other generation, we are catching up. There is even the people in strategic level, they need to learn how to use AI optimally, how to maximize what AI can actually give. So for a foreseeable future, which might be 5 to 10 years at least, we are not going to see the output, because you also have to remember the same thing happened with boomers as well. They are still in the job market, still don't know how to use computer. And that's going to be us and a generation above us who are in executive position right now. They will not 100% know how to use AI. How many salespeople that you know are actually selling AI or selling a tech product in B2B SaaS companies can talk and work with AI? You can count them in fingers. It is going to take a while for people to catch up and optimize the use of AI. I would not say that output is going to be better. It is going to be one of those things when TikTok came and terrible videos were being made, and we put our noses up and said that, oh, who is going to consume this video? It hit it off and it became the next standard. So it doesn't take us longer to lower our standard and get used to it.
When it comes to hiring, do you think companies should hire less, or do you think they should just hire in a different area?
I think all the companies need to plan they're hiring better. There are lot many vanity hires still happening. That should not happen. If one thing AI has done is it has made people much more productive. I mean, like if one document or one presentation took us a week to actually research, find out, create, and then enable a team, now as a product marketer, I can get that document ready in a day's time or even less day time because the information is already there. I just need someone to help me organize my thoughts. That's it. So that's where experience comes in, but that also shows that a single person is much more productive with the right use of AI than what we were previously. I would rather hire a really smart person who can use AI than hiring 5 people. I can plan better and use my tools better down the line, then have 5 people who I have to handle and teach them. And that's what you see in entry-level market as well.
Yeah, but again, it's still that old adage of what you put into it, you get out of it. So if you hire one member of staff to be your AI manager and they're rubbish, you're only going to end up doing more work for you, and what they produce when they're not being overlooked or whatever else is going to be trash, effectively, which can have a negative effect on the company, and then that's going to put more pressure on yourself, for example, because you'd need to replace that person. Then you'd be taking on that role as well. And probably an investor or someone at the higher ups will go, well, she's managing it now, so do we need to hire someone else?
100% true. I don't feel we would end up having just a single role down the line. Gone are the days of a very specialist role. You have to know and see lot many things, lot many outcomes in your companies rather than just being good at one thing. I think it's the time of, I would not say master of none. You need to master at least one thing, but you need to also be jack of a couple of trades to actually survive this. But it is a double-edged sword. I don't have a right answer. As I myself said, that I do have a lot in my plate because of AI. But am I actually generating them? Yes. Is it exhausting? Also, yes.
So just switching gears quickly over to startup, as we technically are. With AI coming in, would you agree that it's going to reduce the reliance on funding? And is that a good thing?
Yes and yes. Yes, because you don't have to think about hiring a lot of resources. Is it a good thing down the line? There would be a lot many entrepreneurs, which is a positive for a while, but we will see a trend where everyone was drop shipping in Amazon. Everyone owned a business at one point. That is definitely going to happen with the tech industry. Everyone is going to have an app. Everyone is going to have a platform. Everyone is going to sell some of the other digital tools without being 100% expert on. So if it breaks, you don't know why it actually broke. And I have seen this in product marketing as well. So I think that is going to be there. It definitely would take pressure off you financially to a certain extent because you don't have to invest in people and resources as much as you thought you would.
Yeah, and to put it in slightly more simpler terms for layman's like me, AI is still a tick box exercise. Like it still wants to tick a box to a certain extent, I would say. So that's why, so it can't. If something comes in that's not within its scope, it's going to go, I don't know, error, 404. I have no idea what's happening.
You saw what happened to Klarna, right? Think about the time, resource, and impact on your business because of adopting to something before it was ready. So they are rehiring, same thing with Salesforce. You can only replace a certain thing up to a point. You can improve your margin. You can definitely bring about capital efficiency, but it is going to be very short-term if not thought through properly. And if you don't have that expert knowledge and idea behind it. Just to give an example of what I mean is, as you know about Midjourney, like they generated around 200 million revenue with 50 people, which is 4 million per employee. So there are success stories, but is that success going to replicate to you, or is it one of those, lucky 1 in a million kind of a guy who hit a jackpot? We don't know yet. Too small data to actually come to a conclusion.
No, exactly. I agree. There's always going to be those one-offs and those outliers. It's good that they happen. It's always nice to see, but it's not the norm, is it?
So we discussed about how we are going to rethink about the hiring, how it is impacting the job market. So I want to go a little bit deeper into the business impact. Does AI impact margins according to you, according to the data that we are seeing? Does it actually impact the runway, which is the amount of budget that you have to run your business for a certain period of time? And does it give you competitive advantage?
Oh, yes, yes, and yes. It's been a great podcast. Thank you very much. I'll see you all next week. If your gross margin goes from 60% to 72% because you've invested in AI, that's quite clearly going to hit your bottom line, which is obviously going to show up for the investors. And also, I imagine your KPIs are probably tied in with that. Long term,
Yeah.
is it going to be a problem? There will be cracks, I imagine.
Yeah, but I don't know how long term it is, because there definitely is a capital efficiency, right? For example, OpenAI does actually roughly 1 million per employee. For smaller AI startup companies, that is 500K per head in year two. So it only takes them 2 years to actually reach that. Traditionally, SaaS company standard was 300K per employee, and it usually took them 5 years. However, if you also look at the funding from 1 billion funding, it used to be called unicorn, now we have gone to $1 trillion. So even though there is an efficiency and there is a margin expansion, but to what limit? There is no end to the runway. 1 million per employee means nothing in the grand scope of things when you're raising funding for 1 trillion.
No, and obviously when it comes to figures, generally speaking, they go up all the time anyway. And obviously in my lifetime, being a billionaire it still is a big thing, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm not underplaying it. But like, oh, there's a billionaire in the world. Now you're like, there's loads.
Yeah.
Like, it's being a millionaire is considered, oh, you're poor or you're all right sort of thing.
Middle class has been replaced by millionaires. That's what I feel. There is like everyone else below millionaire, we are poor. Basically, with what your money can buy, the value of your money is decreasing. And I don't think capital efficiency matters anymore, margin expansion matters anymore, because you're finding more reasons to spend it all in trillions. When the same SaaS company with 1 billion, you could build a really good platform. Now you need trillions of dollars to actually even reach where you want to reach. So I really don't understand how that actually correlates, because math is not mathing in my head.
Question of narrative. So with competitive advantage and AI, now, generally speaking, smaller teams obviously do work quicker and make decisions quicker than larger teams. With that theory in mind, if your competitor is doing the same thing, producing the same product that you are, but only has 8 people, and you have 30, 40 people doing it, well, they can instantly undercut you price-wise. They can do that for a longer period than you can. So it's just siege mentality at that point. It's how long can you hold out, but you're going to lose.
OpenAI is quite salty with Claude, because I think that's the same thing that's happening, because the CEO of OpenAI, Altman, was calling Claude, they overcharge you, where I think Claude and OpenAI, they are fairly similarly priced as well in the price point, but you can already see that happening, and there are better and better product and options coming, which is better as a customer. But if you are into building team or team that actually is behind it, then that's problematic. But yes, I 100% agree about lean teams undercutting you easily. Yes.
Yeah, that does also go back to my earlier point that when it comes to all these efficiencies that keep being made, what is the strategic team and the senior leadership team actually doing?
Keeping their jobs.
Well, there is that, but they could, and they probably should, be highlighting some of these things in the first place.
I really think that everyone is winging it, and I am 100% sure there are some shrewd business people who make right decision for the right market, but I don't think anyone builds for 50 years in mind anymore, and anyone plans for 5 years anymore. It's very short term. Everything is short term. Thanks TikTok and TikTok generation. Videos we look at, the products we build, the clothes we wear, even the idea for future is short term given all the political scenarios. Now we can move to segment 4, the AI carnage. Let's start with marketing. So we have started seeing cut downs when it comes to design and content teams within marketing. And we have also already seen that it handles around 50% of certain part of your jobs, right? So what is going to happen to marketing teams? What do you reckon as an outsider?
Well, I mean, one way of looking at it is go on any job hiring site and see how many entry-level marketing jobs there are these days. They're already being affected. They're going. They're not there. The position itself is redundant now, sadly, because it does mean that there's going to be people who could be really, really good directors of marketing or VPs of marketing are never going to get the opportunity to earn their stripes, as it were.
I just wanted to add one thing, and this is a very interesting nugget for everyone. There is a certain role called localization managers, and what they actually do is they translate your product or your campaigns into different languages in different markets, right? So they handle all the translation, which now can be done in a very basic level, not to that quality, via AI. So how companies have actually started moving those roles is rather than calling you a localization manager or translation managers, you are now global experience manager. Your role is not just directly translating, but it's to ensure that locally you're resonating, even in English. And even in UK, there are different slangs, there are different way of expressing yourself from north to south. So, that's why they are now called global experience manager. And I think that's very smart. That also makes your role, which was before executioner, to a strategist.
So yeah, in summary, with the marketing teams, we're kind of like they're going to be heavily affected because a lot of the roles are going to be taken away because AI will do those repetitive tasks, kind of simply put.
I have a question. So there are other roles in sales like business development where you identify and do outbound cold reach out to your potential customer base and identify and try to convert them into your leads. But now AI can do that. What do you think? Is such roles replaceable? Why replaceable? Why not?
I'm kind of torn on this when it comes to sales because a lot of their job is repetitive, but it depends what you're selling as well. Because if you're trying to sell to people that don't want your product or aren't aware of your product, if they just get a cold call email or something from AI just spams them with emails, they're just going to ignore it and block it. So it does need a human being to ring them and have a conversation with them to build that trust. And then you also know when you do get an email that's been written by AI and probably not proofread it and just sent it, which gives me doubt with the actual salesperson at that point. But back to the point, I think with sales, it's as long as there's a human involved in the customer side of things, which there probably always will be, you're going to need a human to discuss with. So there is always going to need to be a human element involved in that.
So we can say AI does replace reputation, but it is a while before we start seeing AI replacing human judgment, right? Because Klarna, right now, they have a hybrid model, which is AI and humans working together. It might actually replace a task, but not always a role, is what we can actually say.
Yeah, these kind of changes, you could argue, are generational. So they're not really going to come into place until the ones in school are in our position now, because we've all hopefully retired comfortably, and now they're running the show, which means they're going to run it how they learned during their education, whether that be through school or university or just life. But they've grown up with these tools, so they will implement them and use them, and we'll be the old fuddy-duddies on our mobile phones.
And, like hitting the button with one finger.
I do that now, mainly out of frustration.
I remember the time when phone used to hang. Calls used to be so expensive that instead of calling someone, we used to give them a missed call. You had to pay per minute or per second or per message. Instead of sending a message or even saying hi, we would actually give them a missed call. Cut them before they pick up, because if they pick it up, it will cost you.
See, I think there's a lost skill in being able to send a text message on a button phone underneath a school table without being caught, not looking at it. Got one more area just to cover in terms of the teams that we were discussing right now. Would you say that coordination roles are at risk?
It depends on what kind of coordinations that you're doing. I think like before anything else, HR would be redundant even before operation, because if you're talking about these kind of operation roles where we are coordinating, that's what HR does. And if you actually feed into your AI, give it your company policy per companies and everything, it can create a package for you, right? Now itself, it can do your monthly reviews and everything. It's all about scheduling and automating even now. So I think like until and unless you can actually show the visibility of your role and what it actually brings to the table in terms of your business outcomes, you are at risk. And it can be operation, because operation is the easiest one to automate, I think, to a certain extent.
Yeah, I slightly disagree on the HR front, because I think that HR and legal will be the very last ones to be replaced by AI.
Is that because they are the ones who actually make hiring policies and they are the ones, legals are the ones who take you to court for firing them?
Well, yeah, the person in charge of HR for your company is the queen maker. To a certain extent, they have more power than the person in charge because they can actually just replace you.
Kinda actually disagree. I think HR is only king or queen maker in mid-management level. When it comes to higher management, it's boards, it's a completely different process. HR is most of the time not even involved. So
Yeah, from a, I guess, from a board, if there's a board of directors and shareholders from that point of view, but just kind of like a standard company without anything too fancy. And yes, I mean, depends on the setup really, but I understand what you're saying. So just back to the ops team again, would you say that AI is going to increase pressure on individual performance along the lines of you're being micromanaged by AI and it can go, you could have saved 7 minutes here when all you've done is got up from your desk to make a cup of tea?
AI is never going to end up managing in its current shape or form. If it evolves more than this, then yes, maybe, but not now. It can send you reminders. It can be a very good executive assistant, not an efficient one. It will not have those nuances that human beings might have. So coming back to a point, it is not going to micromanage us, but it will apply pressure on us in our performance, definitely, because your output is now being compared to that of a machine. And even though its output is not of that quality, but quantity wise, it is easily beating you now. So you have to produce almost in similar amount, but of better quality. Second thing is that since someone else can actually do your work, like the grunt work, you now have to prove why you are there, why they're paying you, and how you're contributing to the profit or the bottom line. So you are much more exposed in terms of outcomes that you actually bring to a table, not just the activity that you do.
Yeah, and one thing from ops role, and I include my role in that as a PM, is that one thing AI can't do is it's not going to be able to talk down with a customer who's very annoyed because there's a severe lack of empathy. And if your escalation point in the future is going to be the person who is in charge of the AI, because they're dealing with AI so much, are they going to have the human interaction skills and ability to resolve that situation as best possible?
That's a very good way of thinking because we imitate our day-to-day speaking habit to an AI. So 90% of my interaction and my work, if it is going to be with AI, I'm going to bring that to human conversations as well. And that is going to be challenging because you would know how to work with AI, but you may not know how to work with, and solve for human problems. And that is going to be a major challenge for generation that's coming, who is going to have a lot of AI tools and AI as teammates rather than human beings.
Yeah, so the same thing happens with human beings when they move countries. They sort of get like a little twang on their accents because they pick the local lingo up, as it were. Next segment, everyone.
Now to our other segment, okay, which is if AI reduces busy work, should teams be designed differently? We definitely are going to have fewer silos because instead of working with humans, we will have one or a couple of tools all linked or connected with one another, feeding to one another, working for us. But does that also mean smaller teams or lesser middle management? A cross-functional team with maybe hardly one manager, rather than each team having their own managers and coordinating with each other.
Just to argue that point, I was actually thinking it could increase silos because if you do end up with AI managers, for choice of a better word, well, they're working by themselves. They're just managing AI. They're not conversing with anyone. There's no one there to say, be devil's advocate. There's no one there to argue or point back. It's just AI has produced this. That will do because of my input. They're not going to sit there and overanalyze it, are they? Because if they start pointing holes in it, it'll just come back on them. If we go back to one of the things that AI was probably designed to do, and this might be slightly off topic, so I do apologise, supposed to obviously make things more efficient and automations, which i.e. less reliance on humans. Well, you're actually putting more reliance on one single human. So rather than spreading the risk, as it were, you've put it bang on one person who is only answerable to themselves to a certain extent because they're in charge of the data flow. Is that a good idea?
For example, one person managing 3 AI versus one person managing 5 specialists. That's, I think, going to be a very interesting decision. If that person goes on leave, your whole department comes down. Even though you may automate, but you don't know how to use it, or AI hallucinates as well. How can someone verify that if that person who actually owns them, owns the whole AI workflow, is not there?
Again, it's cyclical. What you've done is you've got rid of specialists and then you've made specialists.
Yeah, very good analogy.
Well done, everyone. You've succeeded.
Yeah. So with that, should we quickly move on to our segment number 6? Does AI change who gets the power inside the company? If we ignore your previous answer, which was HR and legal teams.
I mean, there are monitoring softwares already that highlight this stuff. So if an AI is going to do it, and this is very big brothery, don't get me wrong, but we know someone somewhere has probably already developed this. If an AI is managing everyone at every single level and reporting back to shareholders, not to the CEO or COO or anyone else, just to the shareholders, will they base their decisions on that rather than listening to?
Also, AI doesn't do good with probability. There are a lot many decisions that you do, or you take it now, or you build it up so that you reap benefit next quarter, right? It is going to only see the direct input versus output and impact that someone is going to drive.
Yes, there's a shortening between input and output now, isn't there? And it's getting shorter and shorter. So AI does play into that, and it would support a shareholder going, why haven't we instantly got money?
And I have seen this in marketing as well. There is no guarantee the same article is going to work the next time, because the mood, market, environment, whether anything can impact how someone is going to react or how your customer base is going to react. However, even in non-revenue bearing roles, for example, a content writer, have that pressure to perform in terms of revenue and ARR. You are going to be much more naked in terms of your performance, because AI will not understand the long-term impact.
And how do you say to AI in its current form, which when it reports it, thinking time, which isn't unproductive, but sometimes you have to just sit there and go, I just need to reread, go over everything, do a little bit of research, which on timesheets you can explain, but is AI going to acknowledge that as being efficient and productive, or is it going to treat you like another AI?
100%. And I also feel that closer you are to the revenue or cost saving, the safer your position is. However, you're not safe from the pressure of overperforming yourself from the last month or last quarter, because everyone would think they are expert because they can ask a prompt to an AI and it will give them a feedback and a dashboard.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I would say, that whatever your product is, say you've got, your product is something along the lines of you've got to produce reports based on an input, right? If you've got your engineering team building more dashboards, from a business point of view, you've kind of already wasted your money to a certain extent, because that engineering team should be building an AI agent that builds the dashboards, which I see a lot of anyway. But again, it's just back to my point of what are the strategic team doing to a certain extent.
I would also say that, previously, even if you were a technical team and you didn't have that hanging sword of revenue on your head, I think has to play sales game now, because if I'm building something and I'm in product, I will be asked question that, hey, why are people not adopting, or people are not converting? Even if people are converting, they are not paying money for it. So everything will come with a price tag that you need to pay for in terms of your performance. It is going to shrink the distance between you and the revenue roles as well. Everyone will end up having those targets in their head. Like whatever you do, you have to make money. That's how you show your worth.
There is an element to that where if you do represent a company, especially in a customer-facing role, you are a salesperson. You represent that company. You represent that brand. So
But
I know it's a bit more literal in what you're saying. I appreciate that. But how we interact with people does help sell a product.
it does, but it is a philosophical thing. You can see coding jobs have been taken by AI as well. There is a fear between developers because it can be fed into AI, and it can be done not to the quality of a human being, but who is to make that again? And B, again, there's lot many metrics hanging by your head as well.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. As you say, it's more of a different view on it, really, from what I've seen. And besides, watching two engineers on opposite sides of the coin have a discussion is always quite interesting and funny, especially when they start arguing about coding. It's normally very polite to a point.
Yes, I have seen that as well, which takes us to our another segment, which is hiring and salary implications. Since we are both founders as well, do you think we need to rethink the whole hiring process as a founders now in this AI world? How would you think about
Well,
that?
yes, even using the software we're using now to do this. The AI built into the software that we're using does a lot of the heavy lifting, or gives you the option to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, that is why like there is fewer junior roles. We spoke about Gen Z paradox where they face the worst hiring freeze, which is around 37% of organizations are replacing the entry level jobs. Since there is no entry level people, which means down the line in next 5 years there won't be a people who would be replacing the existing manager when they move up. So one person would have a lot of knowledge on how to do job from entry level to how to actually give even strategic input. Specialization in a way is evolving and becoming a kind of a hybrid between specialist and generalist role and bring them together with AI. You no longer can be like, I'm really great at coding. You need to understand the market. You need to be able to translate the market needs, the customer needs, understand the customer success pain points as well to deliver it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess the only kind of counter to that would be probably what IBM seem to be doing at the moment,
Yeah.
which is they're predominantly hiring Gen Z, aren't they? I think.
I need to read about that.
Yeah, because the official is they see a vacuum in talent coming, so they're trying to get ahead of the curve to secure the talent in advance.
Very smart. Whoever it
Yes.
is, very smart.
Yeah. To devil's advocate to my own point is that also means that once they've got all this talent and they've filtered out who is the top talent, will they then become the company that releases the most Gen Z team members in the future?
Like other people is going to catch up, and it is going to be what Google was a few years back. Like everyone will hire someone from Google. Right now that trend is gone down after the massive layoff that they did, and they pointed out how bloated they were. But before that, if you are from Google, you would jump into any SaaS, any B2B, any tech company, and you will get premium price for it. So there is a potential of it being that as well, but it is too early to say.
Yeah, and just an external factor that, at the moment, governments still have some sway over hiring processes with large
True.
companies because they can offer tax discounts or, things like that. Now, whether that continues in the future, we will all experience it. But at the moment, there is that external factor. It's like, right, if you hire more people, we'll give you more tax rebates or something along those lines. They'll come to an agreement.
100%. And how much of your company can you actually outsource either to AI or even to other countries? That also could be monitored. But coming back to our point, as a founder, what do you think about hiring? How you're going to rethink the whole hiring process as a founder?
Yeah, so as a founder, it has definitely changed the way I would approach hiring. In fact, it's even changed the way I think about how the company I work for hires. But back to us. Yeah, I'm more reluctant to hire because it is a big cost, and I don't think at the moment it's going to give us value. I'd be more inclined to hire a temporary person or a contractor than a permanent employee because there is also less risk with that.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, how about you?
I agree with you. I was going to say that if I could hire, I'll still hire someone who is an editor and can freely think. Even though I may make a prompt, but sometimes what AI thinks is the right shots or right video, it's not the same with human, right? I have to re-edit so many things and redo it. So someone who can think for itself and make that judgment call. Am I cautious about hiring? Definitely. So I agree with you in all those terms of what you have said. And when you bring someone else on the table along with you, that's a lot of responsibility. So that actually saves a headache. But that also says that for an individual to stay valuable in this current job market and scenario, what should they actually do?
So in order to stay valuable, I think one of the first things that people need to do is educate themselves on AI and how it works. You've got to be versatile as well and open-minded. You can't just stick with, this is my job, this is what I do, because if your job is that means it's repetitive and AI will take over it.
So are tools going to be enough then? Like, is knowing AI tools and how to work them enough?
No, it's not going to be enough, but it's all about continuous development, isn't it? You can't really stop. Business doesn't stop. AI doesn't stop. There will be something after AI. Then there's also going to be the fact that people may need to be a bit more decisive when it comes to executions. Because if you are basically having a discussion or a disagreement with what an AI has produced, you're going to have to be quite strong-willed in order to push that thought through with your line manager. And it's going to require a lot of trust. And as we've already said, I would say it puts a lot more pressure on a single person.
Yeah, and I also feel that you can start something small. Start with one tool, build one workflow a week, and document the time saved, because it will actually help you give the value to your role down the line, like what you can actually do, how much time you can actually save. Only 23% of the companies actually offer on-the-job trainings. And even when you get on-the-job trainings, you have to do the grunt work of learning anyway, right? So learn it yourself. There are so many free tools available. Make yourself very AI literate, not just literate, educated at this time, so that you can run with it. Try to tie your work to revenue retention or cost saving. Understand what value you bring to the business of the organization that you actually work for. For example, are you helping them get more customers or retain more customer? What is that value that you're bringing? If you can actually replicate that, and you know what? Yes, AI brings that scrutiny, but it also makes it easier for you to calculate that, because now every effort you put can be quantified, or it can build into something. So be smart about the data that can be available to you and the effort that you actually put into it.
I think there are other things that you could do as an employee, or so you could literally just say to your boss, can I please sit in on more senior meetings, such as quarterly planning, or if they can sit in on any sort of board meeting just to listen, say you'll take notes. Volunteer to be note keeper in senior meetings. That would help, because you'll get to know everyone, and your face will become recognized. Also, even just by being there, someone may go, oh, do you fancy doing this?
Yeah.
Basically make yourself more visible, which is one of the downsides of remote work, but that's obviously another topic.
Yeah, and while you're making yourself visible, always remember the higher management, they are not as much aware of AI as you are. They can talk about it and sell about it, but they can't use it. So you can compress that decision between you and the decision-making role, just like AI has compressed the distance between middle management and the specialist. So use that to your advantage. Be the AI information desk. Your senior team can see the value. And also, being part of those meetings actually help you understand how your business makes money, where they put their value in the market as well. So it gives you a lot many strategic insights.
Yeah, and one key thing that people need to do in those situations is actually, it's really good if you can be the person that could translate in real terms what the board are saying to the rest of the team and the customer.
Yeah.
Because we've all sat on those meetings back younger in our career. Nobody explains the acronyms, or they just keep saying them. You're like, I don't know. No one's explaining it to me. And you look to your left and right, and they don't know either. So you kind of need somebody in the middle who can go, right, this was what they meant. Be that person, which means that's going to solidify you within the company, because you are the nucleus at that point. So when hiring and layoffs do come, they're not going to get rid of you, because they'll go, we'll need them.
Some of the examples that I can actually give is, even if you're building a product, how you're driving adoption in product marketing. If you are in ops, what you're saving. If you're in CS team, how you reduce the churn risks, or how you actually help retain a customer and increase the lifetime value as well. So if you can't name your metrics, start somewhere. You can see which role within your department is closest to revenue, and look how you actually can contribute to that revenue or cost. Do you have any practical advice?
Yeah, so I'd probably say practical advice. Learn a couple of AI tools, properly learn them. You can do that for free using YouTube's an obvious one, but there are other forms out there. The information is there. Just go online and have it on as a podcast while you're doing your work or something. There's no excuse for that. Another one would be, as you've already mentioned, own one measurable outcome or a metric, or identify one and own it, and then present it in such a way that they use that as a key metric going forward. Understand how your company makes money. It's always very important, because that means you need to be on board with what's going on. Move closer to the decision-making conversations. You need to be in the room to have a say, basically. These 4 things are free. They take effort, not money, and they will be the difference between being essential and being automated.
Yes, 100% agree. And with that note, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe us. You can also check out our product in laughinglaki.com. I'll put the link in our description somewhere. I hope we were able to share some of our insight. You picked up on some of the data, and yeah, we will see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed them as much as we enjoyed making the notes and discussing all these data points and our experiences with you. Bye bye.
Bye.